Kirkland Dixon, our county commissioner, who represents at least half of the city limits of Monroe, to give our invocation tonight. Kirkland, if you would, please take the floor.
Let us bow. Heavenly Father, amidst the hustle and bustle of life and the going and comings, we pause tonight just to say thank you. Thank you for allowing us to see another day. Thank you for the precious gift of life you give us, in spite of sometimes our shortcomings and our willingness to go astray. Thank you for the city council, men and women who sit tonight, make decisions in your sight. Bless them, give them discernment and a spirit to make decisions that's good for all the citizens of Monroe. We have to, as they travel tonight from the meeting, give them safe passage that they may travel safely to see their loved ones. Bless the first responders, the policemen, the firemen, those who, when a crisis breaks out, they run toward it as opposed to away from it. Bless them as they continue to serve this city. Not only as firefighters and first responders and policemen, but also all the city workers. Bless them for whatever role they play. It's an important role in this city. Thank you for allowing us to live in the greatest city in the state of Georgia, Monroe, the greatest state in the United States of America, Georgia, and the greatest country in this world, United States. Thank you for freedom. Thank you for those who fight for the cause of freedom that we might be free, those who gave their lives in past wars, and those who are serving courageously right now in foreign soil to keep us safe. Heavenly Father, bless us, keep us, hold us in the hollow of your hand. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Kirkland. Again, Kirkland is a county commissioner representing half the folks in the city of Monroe, representing all the folks, but officially has a portion of the town designated to him. Also a member at Grace Church that's right off Bold Springs and Midland, right? Thank you. Let the record reflect. Happy Valentine's Day. Let me call this meeting to order. Let the record reflect that all members of council are present. Welcome, Mr. Boyce. Need an approval of the agenda, please. Is there a motion?
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second? Second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Moving to the approval of the consent agenda. This would be the council and executive session minutes from last month, Planning Commission and Historic Preservation from December, and DDA and CVB from last month as well. I need a motion for the approval of the consent agenda, please.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Little. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Mr. Giles, we're moving to public forum, and I have one person coming in tonight. You can come on up. Pierce Giles is going to come in with a request from council, and I do want you to listen closely because this is something that we have talked about, and I don't see Jeremiah here tonight, but Jeremiah needs to hear it too, so we'll make sure that he gets to watch it. But if you go ahead, and we'd appreciate it.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. My name is Pierce Giles. I'm here to represent myself as a concerned citizen and the people of Maple Height. The curve around East Marable Street by Birch Street, when you go around, we have a problem. We've had several serious accidents there. We've had, I noted, August the 1st, 2020, August the 30th, 2022, January the 21st, 2023. Had a couple of people who almost lost their life. It's a deep, deep hill. It's about 30 foot deep down in there. We had one guy one night that went off. They couldn't find him. He had his phone. He called his daughter. They kept riding and finally saw where the car went off, and he was so far down in there, like a little flashlight with his headlights. We're gonna have to do something about that curve. I've asked before, I've talked to Councilman Norman, I've talked to Councilman Crawford, I've even spoke with the chief about it. And I think a while back I did mention it to Lee. But something has got to be done. I was effective in getting some reflectors put in the street. But over time, they've gotten knocked off, worn off. They did put some signs around the curve to indicate that it was a curve, but the last couple of accidents that we had, the signs got knocked down. So what I'm asking for, to see if we can get a guardrail there, to stop these people from going over in that hole. Somebody's gonna lose their life. It's something really serious. I see it because I live there, and I can look out my back window and see what happens. I'm not sure if all of you know about it, but if you will go back and check some of the records, you'll find out that there's been many accidents in that curve. We meet people coming in that curve going toward Matthews Park on the wrong side of the road all the time. Because the curve is so steep, they take it on the wrong side. So the people coming toward town, sometimes you almost have to run up on the sidewalk to keep from hitting someone head on. We've got to do something. So I'm asking for help.
Thank you, Mr. Giles. Are there any questions or comments?
I just one question, Mr. Giles. Do you think a guardrail would solve the issue?
I really do.
Okay.
It would definitely help. It may not solve the issues of accidents, but it's going to save someone's life from going over in that hole and getting killed.
I talked to Jeremiah about this, and I want to think and I think I might have shared this with Peel. They were saying that some kind of way, the road and the ditch is too close for the guardrail, which made it seem like the guardrail was a hassle to actually put the guardrail up. So we've been having this conversation for a like a few years now.
Yes.
It
And I
ain't
guess
something that
speed.
just started. This is something that we've been talking about.
Speed has
Also
an
mentioned
issue
about a
to it.
gas line as well, a gas line over there that will make it impossible or hard to put the guardrail. So
Because we did ask about putting guardrails up a few years back, and he was saying something about conflict as far as the guardrail. The bank in the road wasn't enough space to actually put it in. So they were just basically what he called shadow fixing. That's when they put the reflectors in the road the first time, but then they did go back and put the little signs up, but clearly the signs ain't gonna save nobody from going over that curve. If they go in the curve, them signs going down.
The guardrails, you're saying there's not enough shoulder.
Yeah, that's
No
what they were
dirt could
saying.
not be added there to build that up?
And that's a good question.
Well,
We need to try to look into it and see if that might be something that could be.
what I was going to say is Ms. Crawford had reached out to me. It's been a couple, 2-3 weeks ago. Jeremiah and I talked about it. There is an issue with the distance from the edge of the road to where that ravine drops off, gas line there. But he has reached out to Keck and Wood to take a look at what we can do. That's our engineers that we use for road work and whatnot, to see if they can come up with something that we could put there that would be safe to implement and also help us. And they're working on it. I don't know where they're at on it, but that's kind of where we're at now. So we have reached out trying to figure out what we can do because, yes, that's a terrible ravine that drops off.
It is.
In the meantime, is it possible to replace the reflectors and the sign that we had there? Just, so that we're doing something?
I've got that in my notes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a
Mr. Giles, thank you. We are addressing it, and you will see something over there, and we'll continue to follow up on our end as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in. That was it for public comment. Moving to business item, city administrator update, Mr. Probst.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of items here. I wanted to give a big shout out to the Walton County Healthcare Foundation, who awarded us a $300,000 grant for the splash pad component over at the Downtown Greens. That's huge, and we're very grateful for that contribution from the foundation. So that's really, really good. It'll encourage activity, mainly from the young, but also from the old and everybody in between that accompanies the children there to the splash pad. So that was the main impetus, just getting people outside and in a more healthy environment. That was behind the donation. So really appreciate that. If you see any of the board members, let them know how grateful we are for that. Speaking of the Downtown Green, so despite of any rain and lingering supply chain issues, we are making rapid progress on the utilities finally and building the slabs and walls. You should have seen some of those go out and up yesterday and late last week. A lot of good progress going on there. If we can just get some dry weather, we'll make really substantial progress and hopefully have a mid to late summer completion, full completion of the project. One other note, just wanted to brief you on the Loganville water line. Rodney, feel free to jump in, but water sales are up by 76% citywide since we turned on the Loganville systems. That's a little over 38 million gallons, I think we've flowed to the city of Loganville, which is almost as much as the entirety of the rest of our system. So it's good, keep all that water here. We've got the available resource. We can capitalize on that resource for our citizens. Helps us keep our costs down a little bit when we can make water at that scale. I just wanted to update you on that since it's been in place in service for about a year now.
Thank you, Mr. Probst. Are there any questions for Logan? Hearing none, we'll come to you, Chris Bailey, Assistant City Administrator Report.
Thank you, sir. The month of January, our 6 parks and grounds guys picked up 8,800 pounds of trash from parks, downtown, and on right-of-ways. So that continues to increase. We're trying to make more of a focus, especially during this time of the year when we're not cutting as much grass, trying to pick up as much trash as we possibly can. Terminal building at the airport is coming along nicely. It's kind of fun to watch come from the ground up. They're working and grading the parking area. Like Logan said, weather has played havoc on them, kind of getting that component, so it's a little bit muddy to actually get to and walk around, but it's worth a visit if you get a chance. The sign that we had voted on, I think, mid-year this past year to go at the intersection of Charlotte Rowell and Highway 11 should start installation here in the next couple of days if weather will cooperate. So that'll be a fun one to get off the plate. Leaf season continues. Jeremiah's not here to get to tell you guys that we finally got our leaf truck back towards the very end of it. So that's helped us get caught up quite a bit. We will continue probably through the end of this month, and then we'll hit calls as we get them and what we see in the sides of our own right-of-ways, sides of the roads to get everything done. 2, solid waste. The Monday, Tuesday route is going to see a change. Tried to put that on social media to better reflect kind of the growing capacity of what was Monday's route to try to even out those days, Monday, Tuesday. We've posted on social media. There'll be door hangers going out in the next couple of weeks to notify people that change takes effect early part of March. Our transfer station 2, and I don't think we've got specific dates, will be closed for a Thursday, Friday, I believe, coming up sometime in March.
March 9th and.
Yeah, which shouldn't necessarily affect anyone other than it might slow down a little bit of the service on those days because we'll either probably have to come in from the backside or actually have to go directly to the landfill to make some repairs to the concrete floor as you drive up to it. And then the only other thing I've got is there's an Arbor Day celebration, February 25th out at Matthews Park. We're planting 5-6 trees in different areas, and we'll have a little get-together with a tree board that morning. I think it's at 10 a.m. That'll be posted on social media too, and I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Are there any questions or comments for Chris? Thank you, Mr. Bailey. Moving to Beth and Bob. Finance renewal.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So it's that time of year where we have to renew our property and casualty insurance. Danielle Dills, who is now taken over pretty much the inventory of vehicles and tags and titles and insurance of that nature. She got with Bob to give him the list of what needs to be covered and to compare that, and then it gets turned over to finance to make sure we have the covered and budgeted funds for it. As I sent it out in an email to all of y'all, there is an increase. I sent the detail in an email, and you also have a printed out version, so you can have it before you tonight. And this is Bob Seville with Seville Risk Management to go over the renewal for you.
Okay, thank you. I think everybody has this summary sheet that we usually use. Anybody that doesn't? Okay. We're going through a period, and you've seen the inflation and prices go up and things of that nature. And right now, you can see down there at the bottom, we have just under a 15% increase this year. It's been said that the insurance market right now is worse than it was after 9/11. And the property market, which historically has been what everybody wanted to write because it was more stable, is the worst of the worst. So the whole thing's upside down right now. We've done pretty good over the years as far as the insurance is concerned. Over 5 years, the premiums only went up $40,000, which is remarkable when you consider the amount of the premiums up in the 400. So that's 10% over 5 years. And part of that was the good loss experience, which has deteriorated a little bit. And as you know, we don't get into specific losses here, but the rates are driven by the losses. And in addition to that, for the best accounts right now, there's about a 10% rate increase across the board. I've got one similar sized city that they told us yesterday is going up between 30 and 40%. Similar loss experience. So we moved 2 years ago, we moved from State National over to Travelers. Everybody's familiar with Travelers, and Travelers is the biggest writer of public entities in the marketplace in the country. So that provides us a more stable foundation. The other large rate increase was a different company. And so Travelers came back and wanted a 15% increase, and we talked to them and negotiated a little bit, and they increased. If you look on your sheet, I've highlighted in red where the exposures changed in the second green column, and the last green column is your deductibles. So the professional deductibles, which is your law enforcement and your public official liability and your employment practices deductibles, you can see right there, those went up from about $10,000 on the public official employment practices, and initially went up to 25 on the law. And we met with Logan and Danielle, what was it, last week? And we're able to negotiate. We brought the chief underwriting officer out that's in this region, and he came and met with us. And so it cost us $6,000 more, but we dropped that deductible from $25,000 down to $15,000, which we thought in the current environment is probably a better decision to pay the additional premium. There was a few increases. We've increased the number of vehicles you'll see in red there. The physical damage, we've been trading out vehicles and using enterprise and so forth. So that's the average value, the total values of all the vehicles, it's gone up significantly. Then we went ahead and we included the cost of the new terminal at the airport in this, because by the time we get to the April 6th effective date, that should be on board by then. We've included the police department was finished up, and we got that added in, and then some buildings out at the parks and so forth. So overall, the rate increase was 10%, and then the remainder was exposure increases. Do we have any questions?
just wanted to know, one thing we talked about in our meeting was the valuations of all the property. So everything's more expensive now, so all the vehicles are 10, 15, 20% more expensive, and that's,
Yeah, that's incorporated in there too. Thank you for reminding me of that. So they're taking, I talked to the travelers today, and I think this one was 4%. But we've got another city larger than this, they're taking 7%, increasing all the values. So this just you know, it's comparable to inflation. So replacement cost, you're probably seeing that on your homeowners policies.
Definitely. Good question?
Yeah, how long have y'all been representing Monroe, city of Monroe?
Oh, probably 10 years. We've been working.
Next question would be toward Logan. Have we actually talked to any other insurance company?
for risk reduction. So Bob is basically the broker. So he searches for the best deal out of all the carriers, so to speak.
It's a good question. I mean, we're the largest broker. There's basically 5 or 6 carriers that specialize in the public sector in the country. And we write about $40 million of just public entity insurance and have around 300 cities and counties. So by doing that, it gives us the leverage we need to work with these carriers. And in most cases, we're the largest broker in the public sector in their department. So that gives us the ability to work with one carrier, and if they get out of line, like we did 2 years ago, we moved it from State National over to Travelers, and that helped us keep that sort of 10% over 5 years. So as one gets out of line, we're able to use the competition from another, and it's normal competition. And it helps also to be able to manage the relationship of the lines of coverage between each other. For instance, if you had your law enforcement liability and it has an auto exclusion because it doesn't want to pick up the auto claims, but then you have a civil rights coverage within your law enforcement. So if you could have a relationship in the law enforcement and high-speed pursuit that would integrate both of those policies, and you want to make sure they have that right relationship to avoid a gap in coverage of something of that nature. So all those parts of it are important.
Right.
Any other questions?
Any other questions or comments? Any questions or comments for Danielle or Beth? Danielle, I know this was a daunting task. I appreciate your staying on it. And thank you too, Bob. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
A motion to approve by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second by Ms. Malcolm. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Thank you, Bob, appreciate you coming in. Moving to Chief Watts, we have replacement of laptops and docking stations.
Thank you, Mayor. We're just seeking the council approval to move ahead with the purchase of these 15 Panasonic Toughbooks and docking stations. I don't know if you guys remember, but back in 2022, we budgeted for the replacement of 15 then, and then waited till the budget of 2023, and it's allocated in our budget for 2023 to replace these as well. But it's for the amount of $51,962.70.
Thank you, Chief. Are there any questions for Chief Watts?
So that's for 15 laptops?
It's the computers that go inside the patrol vehicles and the docking stations.
Any comments? Any additional questions? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve. Second.
Motion to approve by Mr. Dickinson, a second by Mr. Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to Mr. Bailey with Public Works, purchase of a container hauler.
And if I make a mistake on this, Danny can back me up just a little bit. This is reference to email I'd sent 1st of February. It was a 2023 CIP item for a container delivery unit that was budgeted for $147,000. That's what it was when we created the budget. and the actual expense has come back at $165,305. So we're asking for that additional $13,000 increase so that we can let Danny purchase this unit that will desperately be used in solid waste to haul and deliver our containers and dumpsters.
Are there any questions for Chris? I'll entertain a motion.
So move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Boyce,
Second.
a second by Mr. Dickinson. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Staying on Public Works, Danny Smith, purchase of solid tires.
Thank you, Mayor. We're asking your approval to purchase 4 solid tires for the John Deere backup loader at the transfer station. We just need that unit to be on ready to keep him having to avoid having service interruptions and give us an opportunity to maintain the primary loader. So the purchase is at $30,864.89.
Thank you, Mr. Smith. Are there any questions? I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Have a motion by Mr. Boyce to approve the purchase of solid tires. Second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dickinson. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Staying on Public Works, the purchase of an asphalt paver. Mr. Bailey?
Thank you. One more. This was another 2023 CIP item that was budgeted at $160,000. The actual price came in at $162,909, which putting it over that CIP number, coming back to council to ask for the additional $2,900 expense to get the spreader paver.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any questions?
I just have, I guess, a quick question is, I know we're still contracting with the county to do the main paving, is that correct?
Yeah, that's our main LMIG paving.
the LMIG.
We're still doing as a joint project.
So this one would just be for spot areas that need to be done?
Right, so
It'll allow us to do more paving in the city on shorter runs, just like the airport where we'd created a CIP number to contract that out because we didn't have a reliable spreader paver to use. We can now do that in-house with this, and essentially that saves that $180,000 that we were gonna use, and it allows us to patch and repair things. And two, the one that we have now, it's kind of so old and outdated that it's custom parts, custom order anytime we have to order something to get it repaired.
Okay, so it's
small job.
small jobs, but it's worth $160,000.
Yes.
I think definitely so, because the way it's set up with the county is that we would have to do an IGA for each special project. And then by the time we get through that whole process, it usually leads into the bigger projects that we can joint do. The larger LMIG runs, where you're doing half mile or a mile or more of paving. So if we need to quickly deploy somewhere to do a small stretch, quarter
can
mile
do
or
it.
less, we can easily
Yeah.
do that with this.
And we're not left waiting or trying to bid out a contractor.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bailey? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So move.
Have a motion to approve by Mr. Boyce. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dickinson. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to utilities, Mr. Middlebrooks, Jacks Creek wastewater treatment plant, change order.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Asking for your approval for change orders number 7 through 14. They total $96,553. Several revisions to the pump station, also the belt press, and some additional concrete paving that was needed that wasn't in the original design.
Are there any questions for Rodney?
Rodney, with this one done, we expect completion of that somewhere in summertime, right?
Yes, they're asking for an additional 150 days
From today?
from about 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
I move approval.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Is there a second?
Second.
Is that you, Mr. Little?
Yes.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Mr. Thompson, purchase of service bucket truck.
Thank you, Mayor. I seem to be following the same line as everyone else with the inflation on vehicles. We budgeted $162,770 to buy a service bucket for the electric department. Been having trouble finding them, it's the first thing, but we found one with VersaLift down in Milledgeville, Smyrna Truck, or Fouch Brothers. And that unit came in at $205,100. And we're just asking to be able to put that additional cost in the CIP.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions for Mr. Thompson? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve the purchase.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Little. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes.
Thank you.
Moving to preliminary plat review at River Point. Logan.
Old business. So we finally have, this, I think Brad's got it queued up here. River Point, located out there at Cedar Ridge and Double Springs Church. They're requesting approval of the preliminary plat. This includes 4 total phases, totaling 297 single-family residential lots with 1 amenity lot. Brad, do you want to hit any sections of the phasing or anything?
So just to hit some of the highlights that Logan just covered. So, we've gone through some iterations since this was tabled in October 2021. And they have now produced, a final plat that conforms to your regulations. And we've reviewed this in compliance with those regulations. They provided these copies to you for your consideration tonight. So essentially, there's 4 phases in the project. And just briefly, they're showing one first phase essentially will be kind of in the center of the project with 1 access off Cedar Ridge Road. And they propose to come in with a second phase that would block out the frontage along Double Springs Church Road and Cedar Ridge Road. And then they would propose to do 3 and 4 phases that would be towards the back of the development. And as Logan mentioned, it's proposed to be in 4 phases, and they refined their preliminary plat down to meet those requirements. That's pretty much all I had.
Yeah, so secondarily, we worked really hard with the developers on a mutual development agreement. So to sum it up, there'll be developer contributions for the Vine Street lift station pump. This is sewer. Ammons Bridge sewer lift station upgrade. There'll be some contributions for a major water line that we need to do off-site. They'll be paying for the materials for that, and we'll do the labor in-house. And as far as traffic goes, they're going to make a contribution towards a roundabout at Charlotte Rowell Boulevard, at Double Springs Church connector there. And then restriping and stop sign amendments right there in front of the high school at the Double Springs Church Road and the Drake Road / connector. So all in all, we've got some other language in here that I think is probably 99.9% there. Paul, do you want to hit a couple of quick takes?
Yeah, I'm just going to say that they've been back and forth with some revisions on this development agreement, and it's in about, I think Logan's right, 98% format. So we'd just ask that if y'all approve this, that the development agreement be subject to final review and approval from our office. There's just some language in the assignment provision, and then there's some language that we want to get clear with Brad's office on the sort of sunset of this, because the development agreement has hard numbers in it for these contributions. And so we just want to get the language accurate that if this preliminary plat expires, that this development agreement will expire with this preliminary plat, meaning if it's not built now under this preliminary plat, they have to resubmit a preliminary plat application, and that would be with a new development agreement as well. So there's just a few red line edits on this last version. It is very, very close. I don't think there'll be any major substantive changes, but we just ask that any approval be subject to final review from our office. But everybody's been working on this thing for a good long while, so I think it's finally at the finish line.
Yeah, and Clay Kirkley is here with Meritage Homes. If there's any questions, I know it's been a long time since you've talked to him, but if anybody has any further questions.
Are there any questions for Logan, Paul, Clay?
Are there any hard numbers in for these sewer?
Yes. You talking about the off-site contributions? Yes, it's, I think it totals around $900,000. Logan could correct me on that, but it's 162 and change for sewer, 303,000 and change for water, and 450,000 even for traffic, off-site traffic improvement. So roughly 900,000 and change is the total off-site. That does not include, of course, any sewer fee, sewer tap fees, water meter fees, those sort of things. That's just this additional development agreement, cost sharing.
Are we aware, the improvements at Charlotte Rowell and Double Springs Church today, raw dollars, what the improvements are gonna run us there?
I mean, gosh, it changes up or down each month, but it was around 700,000, I think.
This is for the roundabout.
Yeah, around 700 is what was quoted some time ago.
That'll do wonders for safety at that intersection.
So what is I know this is a preliminary plat approval. So what happens between preliminary and final?
Well, they can get going.
The submittal of site development plans for approval with the city to compliance with your, and submittal to Georgia Soil and Water, and our engineer would review their actual engineering plans, and then we would grant them a land disturbance permit to start development.
And the development agreements you referenced, you're looking for tonight approval of this plan, including the development agreement, is that what I heard?
That's correct.
Yeah.
Are there any questions, comments? Logan, Paul, Clay?
I do want to go back through the numbers with Clay afterwards, when we can do some of these edits with our attorneys as well, just to make sure we've got everything 100% right from the red line version that they sent over, but I think most of it's correct.
I'm comfortable with that. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Dickinson. Is there a second?
And that would be subject to the attorney's approval.
Right.
Yeah, the subsequent agreement there.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to public hearings, Mr. Calendar, 104 3rd Street.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The request before City Council this evening is a rezone. It's a property currently zoned R2. The owner is asking to rezone the property to B1. This property is located on 3rd Street. This is 104 3rd Street, just southwest of the intersection with 3rd Street and South Broad. It's highlighted on the screen behind you. It's a property sitting behind the Hope Springs Professional Office Building. So the owner of that building that is at Hope Springs on the corner of South Broad and 3rd Street has acquired the property at 104 3rd. The property on the corner, as you can see in the zoning on the slide, is currently zoned B1 where that business operates. The owner is requesting to rezone the property to B1 for this property, the one that's shown here, to B1 in order to expand her professional services building. The Planning Commission and staff have recommended approval of this request, approval as submitted without conditions. That was our recommendation.
Thank you, Brad. Are there any questions for Brad? Hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for the purpose of public input. Is anyone here to speak in favor? Ms. Hawkins?
So I'm Sherry Hawkins, and I've owned Hope Springs Counseling for 11 years here in Monroe. And I've been a licensed professional counselor for 24 years. 11 years ago, I decided I wanted to bring my services to my community. So I rented small space in the Eulalia office suites owned by Jim Draper. Quickly outgrew that space and then rented from David and Rita Dickinson for a few years and then from Andy and Lee. So 2 years ago, we were able to obtain 706 South Broad Street, and we've quickly outgrown that space. So Thankfully, we're serving our community in even bigger ways, and we're able to obtain the space behind us to be able to expand. And that will also offer us the opportunity to have our own parking space as well.
Would we be combining this as one lot?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anyone else in the audience who would like to speak in favor of this? Is there anyone in the audience who'd like to speak against the rezone? I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and we'll revisit that in just a moment. Moving to the variance at 407 East Church Street, Mr. Callender.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The variance request before council on this property, it's 407 East Church Street. They're asking a variance from two sections of your zoning ordinance. One is to allow a forward-facing garage, currently in your zoning ordinance as of tonight. And then the second one is to reduce the side yard setback. As you can see on the drawing behind you, this is an older plat. They had an existing forward-facing garage behind the existing single-family dwelling for a number of years. That structure burned approximately 5 years ago, somewhere in that time frame. They did not replace it, and they have demoed the building now. As you can see in the photograph here, the slab is left. The purpose of the variance request is the owners would like to replace that structure with a forward-facing garage on the same slab that the previous garage was located. In order to do so, they need the council's permission for two variances to allow that. So basically, you're looking at a 3-foot reduction, which is the existing slab now, from the side yard setback. This is a 2-foot reduction of your 5-foot setback, and then the forward-facing garage, which the garage itself sits behind the dwelling. So the planning commission recommendation and staff's was approval as submitted without conditions. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Brad. Are there any questions for Mr. Callender? Hearing none, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for public input. Is there anyone who would like to speak in favor of this, it's not a rezone, of this variance? Mr. Hoff? Thank you for coming.
Good evening. Pretty much he summed up what we're trying to do. We would have built sooner, but COVID struck, and now we'd like to finish the property off. I think it'll make the frontage for the entire street look much better. So, anyone have any questions?
I'll come back to that in just a moment. I think you're fine, but we'll be back in just a second.
Thank you.
Is there anyone who'd like to speak against the variance? Hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed, and we'll come back to revisit in just a second. Moving to new business, which is the rezone for 104 3rd Street. I'll open the floor to council members only for discussion. And if you do have any questions, feel free to ask.
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say that throughout this process, I worked with both Ms. Hawkins and with Brad, and even came out there, saw the site, talked about some of the stuff that, because we live over in there in that area, you know, things that we want to see in the community and what's going on. And so, of course, as Ms. Hawkins has said, she's been serving our community for a long time, and we really do appreciate the work that she does, and we're happy to have that in our neighborhood. So I just wanted to say that even working with Brad with the B2 or B1 zoning, excuse me, about how that works in the neighborhood with a business rather than a traditional commercial zoning or something like that. It's an excellent way to go. So we really appreciate you working with us, and Brad, you working to make that happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. I'm going to come back to you in 1 second. Are there any other questions or comments?
It looks great, and I think the parking is going to be such an asset. You've got quite a bit of space to make that parking.
Tyler, you want to make a motion?
Yeah. Move to approve.
I have a motion to approve by Mr. Gregory, a second to approve by Mr. Dickinson. Is there any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Thank you, Sherry, for your patience. I know you've worked on this a long time.
Mayor, if I can, just a moment. We missed a public hearing. If I can get you to go back 1C, we've got an ordinance to amend the official zoning map. We need to have a public hearing on that.
Oh, before we vote.
Yes, give me a minute, Ms. Hawkins.
No, you handled that matter. I mean, you took a vote, and I think that one's concluded. We
just jump back.
Just jump back to 1C if you can. You just handled 2A, but before we move on to 2B, if we could just go back to 1C.
Facility relocation proposal.
No, the
No.
ordinance to amend the official.
Ordinance to amend the official zoning map.
Yeah, that's not in my. There we are. Mr. Callender. all excited. We're getting stuff done.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So before City Council this evening is your update, your biannual update, basically, to the official zoning map for the city of Monroe. The version that's in front of the council and on display and for the public this evening is an update to the map itself. It reflects all zoning actions by the city since July of 2021 and is for the council's consideration. Planning Commission recommends approval of this update.
Thank you, Mr. Calendar. Are there any questions for Brad? Okay, I'll declare this portion of the meeting open for public input. Is there anyone who'd like to speak in favor of this, of the new map? Anyone who'd like to speak against? Hearing none, I'll declare that portion of the meeting closed. We'll be back to revisit that in just a moment. We have since approved Ms. Hawkins' rezone and now moving to the variance of 407 East Church Street. I'll open the floor to council members for discussion only.
I'm just assuming that that structure will have to go before historic preservation.
It's already received that approval.
It has.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions or comments? Ms. Malcolm, you want to make a motion?
I'm happy to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Motion by Ms. Malcolm, a second by Mr. Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the facility relocation proposal. Are there any questions for Logan? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Boyce. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Move to the resolution to the support of grant match application for the 23 Historic Preservation Fund CLG Survey and Planning Grant. Mr. Probst.
So, as you know, we've been talking about a historic preservation fund grant, which you just explained. But basically, this updates our 1982 survey with a very robust survey. And so we need the supporting resolution so that we can get funding to carry out another phase of this project.
Are there any questions for Logan? Any comments? Does council wish to have the resolution read? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Motion to approve by Ms. Malcolm. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Dickinson. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the first reading of the ordinance to amend the official zoning map. Are there any questions for Brad regarding the map? Would you like to have it read?
Fred, could you just pinpoint any major change over? I don't think there's really anything super significant.
Other than I'm happy to cover all changes. So there were approximately 11 rezones since the adoption of 2021. There's been a specific change to the CBD, the property on Church Street there has been removed from the central business district.
Okay.
That's fine.
Any other questions or comments? Nobody wants to have the ordinance read, the update read? We'll revisit that next month. We're in that was the first reading, right? So the second reading is zoning ordinance code text amendment number 14. Are there any questions regarding this ordinance? Would you like to have it read, or should we move ahead? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Thank you, Mr. Dickinson. I have a motion by David Dickinson. Is there a second? I have a second by Ms. Crawford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Moving to the second reading of the Animals Ordinance Amendment. Are there any questions regarding this ordinance?
This was simply to stay in line with the county.
Brings us in line with the county. Does anyone wish to have this read? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Move to adopt.
I have a motion to adopt by Mr. Dickinson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Gregory. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Zipped on through. Anyone have anything to discuss regarding your districts? Ms. Malcolm?
I don't think so.
Ms. Crawford? Mr. Boyce?
No, sir.
Mr. Bradley?
I have nothing for the district specific, but just maybe a couple of things. One is I'd like to compliment Mr. Middlebrooks and his staff for staying up all night last night to keep Broad Street and North Broad from being closed during heavy traffic times. I think they left around 4:30, 5 o'clock this morning to open that street back up. So appreciate the staff staying out like that and, you know, really to protect people and not have to keep Broad Street closed during the daytime hours. So
I didn't realize what was being done.
putting in a new some taps, sewer tap and water tap and stuff, right on North Broad at Maryville, and they had to close the streets. They waited till evening hours to close the
We
street.
still have a lot of traffic through Monroe during the middle of the night. Really?
Rodney hadn't slept since Sunday. Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Anything else?
No.
Mr. Garrett? No. Mr. Gregory?
Beth, is the kiosk fully? No? Well, all right then.
So on the utility billing payment kiosk, it was supposed to go live yesterday, yesterday. And I tested it, and customer account balances are not updating correctly, so I shut it back down. And the vendor is checking into that, and will get back with me this week. So as soon as it goes live, we'll put something out on social media, and I'll let all of y'all know. But it will be a great tool to have for all of our customers.
Absolutely. Thanks for handling that, Beth. And I'd also just like to say an update on Habitat. We had a fundraiser not too long ago, and we were able to raise $125,000 that night. So that's a combination with Gwinnett and Walton, as you know. And we're very thankful for the ability that that affords us to continue to build houses. We recently purchased 7 more lots in Monroe, and closed on them not too long ago, so that'll be 7 more homes for folks. And then we have finished 2 homes this year in Monroe, and we'll be starting on our 3rd soon. And there are several families lined up for homes, and so, you know, as we like to say with Habitat, it's a hand up and not a handout, and we're very thankful for the people who in the community have taken on the challenge of wanting to walk into a Habitat home, the work that they do in that year leading up to it, and we very much appreciate the fact that the council and the rest of the city has been so supportive, and I appreciate everybody working together to handle this affordable housing issue and working together to make that possible for people's lives. Some of the stories that were told at the fundraiser were amazing, just about, you know, what kind of impact it has on people's lives. You're 116% more likely to go to college if you live in a home. And so, I don't remember the stat for graduating high school, but it dramatically increases. And so those kind of options that we can afford people in this town are absolutely amazing. And again, just thanks so much for everyone's support in that.
And I appreciate what they've done. When they get a new homeowner, they teach them, they give them classes on repairing things in the home. They give them budget classes. They work with them all the way through. And they had 2 mortgages torn up that night, or 3?
3.
3 folks have paid off their mortgages, and wish I were kind of in that same boat. But yeah, thank you for working with them, Tyler.
And the default rate is lower than the national average for Habitat homes, and especially for Gwinnett Walton Habitat homes. So
That's outstanding. Mr. Little. Mr. Dickinson.
Nothing from the district, but I just want to follow up on what Tyler was saying about Habitat. I was privileged to attend that meeting as well as did the mayor. And I hope that the next one, that everybody on the council can go to it. I mean, Habitat is a wonderful, wonderful organization, and we are just so blessed in Monroe and Walton County that the Gwinnett chapter decided they wanted to move over the line and work in this community as well, because those folks have their act together. And when they originally approached us in Monroe about doing it, I met with them and I asked them the hard question. I asked them, I said, tell me how it is your chapter will succeed, whereas the one that was started in Walton 20-something years ago built 2 or 3 houses and then basically was unable to raise the money and continue the good work. They answered the question very well, and they have followed through on the promise. So we got great things coming. It doesn't solve every problem with affordable housing, but it helps a goodly number of people, and it helps our community. So
Good start.
100% behind it, and I hope all of you are as well.
And their Brush with Kindness program. So they've done a lot of contributions around here.
Bill, before we leave, can I do one other thing?
Yes, sir, please.
They're talking about building, just reminded me. I don't know whether Logan or Brad or somebody, but I know we've got commercial building going on around of, you know, retail businesses and things. Because you see Starbucks is, I know, progressing. Are there any other things that we would like to be aware of, maybe, or that are under construction now or getting ready to be under construction?
You know, a
Like,
lot
for
of this-
example, 138, what's going on
That's
out
the
there?
Tokyo that you guys have approved eons ago.
But that's a big area out there. Is it just Tokyo?
Right now, it's just Tokyo, and I think they have plans later on for little strip center, a couple stores. But
It's gonna be the actual size of Tokyo.
it's huge, huge. Most of what you see coming out of the ground now is stuff that was approved a year plus ago.
Which we may have forgotten. That's the reason I like to get reminded.
Yeah, I
of
may
those
have
things.
forgotten as well. We could probably put together a report going forward of, you know, new construction activity, land disturbance permits, and what all of that may entail.
Thank
'Cause it's
And
been slow.
Reliant
Yeah.
is in development stages of Michael Etchison, correct?
They are. They're about to get that going. Yeah, early stages there. Finishing up the major sewer project that was in partnership with the city out there. But phase 1 anyway is underway at River's Edge, I believe it's called.
And I know we talked at one of the prior meetings about the new buildings that'll be done out around the Publix area. Anything else progressing on any of that from a construction standpoint, or
The new building.
like for restaurants?
Yeah, so there's, you know, you got Barbaritos going up, you've got, Hugh Magoo's has turned in application, Whataburger, I believe.
Yeah,
all the way through, so, a couple little out parcels or out buildings will be retrofitted with, or fitted with, new restaurants, I think a Mexican restaurant. But, you know, we get those announcements about the same time as the public does. MAB will announce those.
Good, thank you.
And thank you for coming to the ribbon cutting for Old Navy. That meant a lot to those folks.
I did want to supplement what Logan was saying. There is another way to track that, is that at our planning commission meetings, we do see those requests for certificates of appropriateness for the corridor. So some of those are coming up at those locations too, but not every new project in the city. But some of those big new ones that are coming up, like Tokyo and Whataburger, they did go in front of planning commission.
Thank you.
But I agree with Logan. We could produce a little summary report of those each month.
And my report, a few things. It's been a long time since we last met. Georgia Cities Week is April 23rd through the 29th. We'll have Community Cleanup Day on the 29th. So it would be great if we could all get teams. I will apologize in advance. I have a state board meeting down in Tifton that weekend. But please do get your teams involved with that. It's always nice to receive written compliments and see how our team's doing here. Marie Jackson sent in a nice note today about dealing with Monica Smith in customer service. I've had a lot of folks just in the last couple of weeks say how nice those folks are. Amy gets to come to, most all of our meetings, and she's always a favorite of the folks in the community. So I appreciate all the work that y'all do, Amy. Please pass that along. We have the Public Servant of the Year. Chief Dykes was given notice last week at our DDA? Chamber. We've had DDA too, I'm coming to that. So thank you, Chief. On the 17th of March, in the event that you want to come, I have Reading with the Mayor Day, which is something that Georgia Municipal has started. So I'll be at the library. Bring popcorn and drinks and listen to me read in my favorite Irish accent. I do have the Center for the Arts Impact Report up here if you'd like to see that from Monroe Walton Center for the Arts. Nonprofit Awareness Day is Friday from 9 to 3 that the DA is putting on. Grand opening of the Overlook, you've all been invited. It was formerly the Senior Living Center on 78. It shut down in the middle of the night.
Yes.
It's got a new name now.
Yes, anyway, it has a new name. It's the Overlook.
Lines above and below.
You've all been invited. It's 3 o'clock on the 16th. And then I also have the vibrancy report from our DDA. And what was interesting to me looking at this report, in 2021, the guests that came to our events were a little over 100,000. And I can't guarantee that it's going to be 70 degrees on the day of Christmas parade every year. So this number is always going to change. But last year, our attendance at our events were over 207,000, with volunteer hours of 3,338, with public-private investment of over 9.1 million. The team has just done an outstanding job. Leanne, Sarah, I appreciate all the work that's gone into that. We did pick up an extra 57 jobs last year downtown. So anytime that you can support our local businesses, you've supported our entire community, and I appreciate it. Last thing, I popped out something to you about the Georgia Civility class that the state's doing, Embrace Civility. I didn't get any replies, but if you would like more information about this, you want to start taking a look at adopting this, I would appreciate your input, your comments. You don't have to do it now. We can do it later. And that's all I have for me. I need a motion to adjourn to executive session, please.
Move to adjourn.
Have a motion to approve, to adjourn to executive session by Mr. Gregory. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Malcolm. All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. That passes. Meeting adjourned to executive session.